It's no accident that sounds like you're leveling up in a video game. 48% of 18 to 29-year-olds have an online dating profile.
Make them work for it.
45% of people say they're more frustrated with this form of dating than hopeful.
There are so many people you can connect with.
Should I swipe right?
Swipe wrong. Swipe wrong. Setting the record straight on dating apps. Everyday people telling everyday stories of the swipe right world with your host, Koss.
Well, I know he had a good time.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and of course, you know how it goes. Good night. Welcome to the Swipe Wrong podcast, the number one podcast amongst people who already have their Christmas stuff up. Where was I at? IKEA, I think, and I saw it like 3 weeks ago. And as I'm recording this, it is September 25th, just to give you context. And they already had Christmas lights on sale. I was like, what? So like maybe the beginning of September. I was like, let's just like, all right, I give up. I surrender. Just put up the tree because nothing else makes sense anymore. I am that guy. You guys know this. I am that guy. I am Koss. That guy that brings you the stories, takes you through a bit of everything. So let's do the housekeeping part of it, shall we? So like, follow, subscribe, send us your info, send our info to your friends, make it like a secret Santa gift. I don't know, whatever you need to do. Let the show keep getting out there. But I want everybody's story, as you guys know. 317-426-6616. Email us at swipewrongpod@gmail.com. I want to hear from you. Like we hit a lull. We haven't heard from as many people. So I think people are in cruise controls. Maybe the show just isn't growing the way or as quickly as I thought it was for a while, and now we'll get it back on track. So the producer of the show, Jay Pelham, Musician's Playbook, and also has a couple other books coming out, and just an overall just amazing human being. So this week well, you'll have to listen to the show this week to see what it's about. I won't give you the total rundown of it, but you guys, I guess there was something that was in my head that I need to talk out with somebody, and I found one of my favorite somebodies to talk it out with. So you guys will get a hold of that. So I'll make this intro short. Love all your faces. Come see my faces. Let's go face to face over Zoom and have a good conversation. So you know how it goes. Sit back, relax, put your feet up, grab your popcorn, get it buttered if you want to. Don't hit that person next to you. And if you are in traffic, if you there's where it comes. If you are in traffic, please don't hit that person next to you. And enjoy this week's episode. Surprise! We're all narcissists.
Disclaimer: the views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions or any entities they represent. This podcast is about dating experiences. It is not to say one dating app is better or worse than another.
So, I know it's a dating show. It's like I do a dating show. People talk about their dating experiences, and a lot of times I'll have experts on. It seems like more than not, I've had experts on. I've had a lot of repeat people lately because they all have come up with like, oh my gosh, I got this story. I forgot to tell you. I got this thing and that happened. And over the past few weeks, that's what's shaking out. I imagine you might have a couple more, and I definitely want to get into those. But what I do want to talk about too is like relationships. All right. So like you've dated for quite a while. Do you see it, and you're around a bunch of wonderful single people also? Does it seem harder for people to sustain relationships now than they have before?
Yeah, I hate saying yes because
Right.
I want to believe that it could be, that we're not just like a hookup culture and that's it. I just think everyone is on like their own path, and they're just kind of like, it's not so much about a we anymore. It's more just like, if you're on a journey of self-growth, like, or self-improvement, You're
Right.
going to be, there's a period of time where you need to focus on yourself and allow, these lessons to unfold and to unpack some past stuff and get through some emotions and stuff. So I think I if I say if I'm saying that there aren't really many relationships that like last, or that, it's not really a common thing so much these days, I think it's because there's just more, personal growth going on. And I
That's
think a lot
fair.
more people are kind of being shown like, hey, like, let's do some inner work.
Yeah, that's fair. And I know, we didn't talk like you're anybody who listens to the show religiously knows like you and Mike are my go-to people when I just want to kind of talk about stuff. And
Yeah.
when there's things that come up. And I didn't preface you with this, but there's just some stuff that's kind of come up to me a lot lately, from people who've been on the show, people who check in and I check in with. And one thing, like, I think the term, I feel like we get into terms, like we get into certain cycles. Like there's a term of uh, like gaslighting was a really big term for a long time. I felt like for a good year, gaslighting was the term. Oh, they gaslit me. And I'm like, well, are you sure? I mean, do you know what that means exactly? It has nothing to do with lighting you on fire. Some people would know it. Some people would just be just gravitate to the term. I think now, over the past year and a half or so, that term now is narcissist. Like this person, like everybody's a narcissist. And I'm like, you know what? I'm a narcissist. And then people will be like, what? Narcissist is just really somebody who thinks highly of themselves. That's really all it is. But then it gets
Mm-hmm.
changed into they're self-absorbed but there's just not a better word to describe somebody who blames somebody else for everything and has their head up their ass but somewhere mixed in there though, I think is what you're talking about. Like a lot of people are just doing work on themselves and trying to love themselves first. And while they figure it out, they're just also kind of doing it when they're in the process of being in a relationship too, which doesn't help the
Mm-hmm.
other person. And I think that gets kind of jacked up to where oh, they're just a narcissist, or it's just an easy thing to fall back on. That's the thought I had earlier that I needed to share with you.
Yeah, that's a really good, actually a really interesting thought, because it's so popular. It's
Yeah.
very common. And it's, I've definitely had my share of that. But I've kind of also wondered like where the line was too, like where, it's being used in a way that it doesn't really
Yeah.
apply. Like
Yeah.
maybe it's just, both people are lacking accountability,
Yes.
and it's hard to move forward in the relationship if both parties are, if only one person is taking accountability and the other one isn't.
Yeah.
So that's a common thing, and that's kind of where, the personal development and inner work really helps in those situations. Like if you already have that, like some sort of foundation, some relationship to that, it'll really help you along the way in a relationship with somebody else when challenges do come up. Because you
Yeah.
can, you kind of have already figured out, like, your side of the street, the other person's side of the street, and like we're responsible for our own side of the street when it comes to conflict.
Right. Right.
And there's not much, there is a lot of knowledge out there, but I don't think a lot of people are like super aware of how that works
Right.
and how it
Right.
can help.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's dead on. So like, what do you think when I say this? Like, I think when people use that term,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's a crutch, which which a lot of times they're right. There just should be a stronger term for what they're meaning. But I think it also gets in the way of, like you're saying, like if one person's taking accountability and the other one's not, or each person thinks the other one is too self-absorbed or a narcissist, um, didn't they stop doing the work on figuring out how to figure out the problem in the relationship? I think that like almost like, well, they're a narcissist, so there's nothing I can do.
Well, I think the first time I ever like knew about that the word narcissist was like 9 years ago,
Yeah.
and it was a relationship I was in, and to me, narcissist was someone who was like definitely emotionally manipulative, because
Hmm.
that is, one of the core things about a narcissist is manipulation.
Yeah.
Obviously lack accountability, but he was like on a whole other level. Like the guy had like a criminal record, like that kind of
That's
level.
not
Like
narcissist.
he
That's
was
criminal.
just
That's just like, yeah,
that's criminal.
yeah. That's, you could take narcissist out and put thug life in there. That's just like thug
Yeah,
life. Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
that's it. But
Yeah.
so to me, like I associated like someone who's like super hardcore like that with the term narcissists.
Okay.
But yeah, when you take all that away and you boil it down to, someone who's just like really, into themselves,
Sure.
it's like, well, sure, people can be like that, but why would you want to be with someone who's like that? Like,
Right.
so if someone's calling another person a narcissist,
Right.
like it kind of falls back on the other person. Well, why are you with someone you think is a narcissist?
Stop it with your logic. Stop it. Stop it with your common sense and your logic. That's out of control craziness. But you're right. I mean, it's like, well, it's their fault. Well, are you going to try to fix it? Or are you just going to go tell your friends that you're with this narcissist and they're like, why? Why are you doing that? Why would you want to do that?
Like the person just ends up showing their inability to like pick properly when they're, let's say calling somebody a narcissist that they're dating, but yet like, they're choosing to be with that person. So
Right. Right. 100%.
I don't
So,
know.
and then I think back to one of the first things that we said too about like people don't like there's a lot to like FOMO. Like there's so much FOMO. Like people are afraid they're gonna miss out on the next best thing instead of thinking they're with the best thing. And I saw something that made me go, yeah, that's very true. Is if you break up with somebody or there's a breakup, the other person does nothing but wish you well, chances are you just probably left the best person you could have been with.
Yeah,
Chances
most
are.
likely. Yeah, high probability for sure. For sure. It's definitely, you know, if you exit a dating dynamic like that with like nothing but like peace and zero resistance,
Hmm.
the person's gonna come back.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna be like,
Well,
oh,
hopefully, yeah. And there's nothing but well
usually.
wishes. Yeah, there's nothing but well wishes. There's nothing but like, hey, just I wish good things for you. Then, one person could be completely done. Be like, hey, you know what? Give it a shot. Didn't work out. And the other one can be
Yeah.
like, ooh, I messed that one up. Hey, how you been? And it's like, sorry, you're a narcissist. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That term has a lot of different meanings, even though at its core, essence, it really is just someone who's just like really, self-involved and into
Yeah.
themselves.
I mean, it can. Like, I don't know why certain things like that, like, I think I don't know, they irritate me sometimes. Like, there's a saying, it's a saying that goes around, and you've probably heard it a million times. And I have this guy I used to work with who would say it almost on the daily, and I'd have to tell him to shut up. But the saying is, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I'm sure you've heard that. That is not
Hmm.
the definition of insanity. If you look up in Webster's dictionary, there is nothing of that at all in Webster's dictionary. So there's a cliche that came out, and someone just everyone's like, well, yeah, that makes sense. It does. Like that's not the definition of insanity. That's just stupid. Somebody's stupid for doing that. You could say, hey, jackass, why are you doing the same thing over and over again? But it's not the definition of insanity. And it used to drive me crazy. And he's just like, you're dumb. That's not it. Look it up. Quit being stupid. Same thing with narcissists. Like that is not like, I hope everybody's a narcissist. I hope everybody has high opinions of themselves, but I also want everybody to treat everybody good. That's the thing. Like
Yeah.
that's where it falls apart. have that, like one of the favorite sayings I send out all the times, I hope you have self-esteem so high that you're humble. Like that is what people are lacking but looking for. Have that narcissisticness to you, but treat people good. So anyway.
Yeah, that's probably like teetering on selfish. Like that's kind of the definition that gets so misconstrued all the time, is like
exactly,
you're putting the love into yourself in like the proper places that may look strange to other people because it's like a societal thing. It's like an achievement if you put yourself on the back burner and keep going till you're like just completely empty. So, it might appear to be like an extremely high level of like selfishness or narcissism when you're actually doing something that's like good for yourself. So that's where I think a lot of people can misconstrue that. They're only just projecting like their own issue of like, God, I wish I could like do that for myself. But I feel like I can't some way, somehow, even if it's like a suppressed thing, like where they want to, but they can't because somewhere they believe that they can't or shouldn't.
Right.
Like there's some guilt there. So if they see someone else doing it, then it's like jealousy happens, and then there's like name calling, and so it gets misconstrued.
Sure. And I think that's so right on. Like, I think everyone needs to be selfish. I think everyone also needs to be transparent, and you can be selfish and still giving at the same time. Like like boundaries are a real thing. Like boundaries are for real.
You can't give from an empty cup.
Yeah.
You gotta fill up your own goddamn cup. You gotta fill that up yourself.
There it is. That's probably the best way to put it. So those things were on my mind for sure. Where I'm like, all right, so like this term and that term and what's going on with this, and I need to work through talking some stuff there. So what is the dating scene like for you anyway? Like I'm stories or whatever. If you got them, cool. But just what's the dating scene like?
Yeah. Well, let's see. I did go out on a date, but it's usually just like the ones that I've been seeing for like a couple years. It's just kind of like that same roster. But the dating scene, I mean, I don't properly date, like, or I guess you would just call it properly dating. We'll just call it that. I mean, I don't know. Like I'm just kind of more like, my priority is just like to have fun. My priority is just like, okay, like whenever I feel like going and doing something, that's it. But I don't know. It's been interesting because me, I have like a couple different situations going on, and actually speaking of terms, polyamory has come up. That's the word, right? Polyamory.
Polyamorous. Yeah.
Okay,
that's come up.
Like apparently that's been circling around to me, like, and I never even like considered that being a thing, like for me, because I do like I am traditional in a sense where like if I am interested in somebody and they live here, like we're close by, like I'll spend my time with them. But if they're not, then I'm like, I'll divide up my time with like other dudes.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
No, it totally. The other term that they like, polyamorous, but it's also consensual what is it? Consensual non-monogamy is also what it's called. That's the other term.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, polyamorous sounds too much like a Disney movie, Pollyanna or something. Let's call it something different. We'll call it consensual non-monogamy, which is the same thing. So that's all right. So that's pretty cool. So that's circling like your world right now is what you're saying?
Yeah. Apparently that term came up recently in a conversation with a couple of like my guy friends. And I was like, I, I'm like, yeah, I could see how that might fit me, like in a description of dating, like the way that I am, like I have like various relationships with like different men,
Uh-huh.
and it's kind of mainly because they either live far, or like one is in like an ethically not, what is it, non-monogamous relationship or something.
Is it,
um
yeah, the consensual
it's
non-monogamy that we were talking about?
yeah, but there's
Like
like
it's
another term, like when
like an open
you're married
marriage.
but you're able, yeah,
It's an
it's
open
basically an
marriage.
open marriage, but there's another term for it that's
Okay.
similar to the one that you just shared.
Okay.
um but yeah, like, so there's like all these different variables, and I don't know, that just works for me. Like,
You
just
know,
have
but I
like
see
a kind of handful.
I think I've said this for a while on a few episodes over the past couple of years. Like relationships seem like they're changing. They just like for a lot of people, to what you're saying, it's something you've never thought you probably would ever entertain, but it's almost easier to be open to because I don't know, like I know it's probably going to be easier for people to get hurt in a way. Like eventually someone's going to have stronger feelings than someone else or something and you gotta that's where true transparency has to come in. But people are going to get hurt no matter what. Like they're like relationships are built, from prior hurting, I guess. So I don't know. Like it almost seems like this is the next metamorphosis of what a relationship could be, right?
I think so. I mean, it works for me, and I kind of, like the dynamic of like just, not putting all my eggs in one basket. And it probably has to do a lot with loss. And
Sure, sure.
just like, like, but at the same time, like I do keep an eye out for like somebody new or whatever, if the relationship that I've like, you know, in like, a casual relationship, if it ends up growing into a space where we like see each other more, or like it just keeps merging forward together in like different ways to where it makes sense to
Right,
like continue, just seeing each other.
right.
um but yeah, I mean, I've got my wounds. So
Yeah, oh
I
yeah,
think
for sure. For sure. Me too.
I've got my wounds. So I think there's a lot that I get out of like having my relationship set up the way that they are, at arm's length. And preferably not in the same town. So so it can just be like, I have my space, like everyone's just
Is that
go
what
away.
happened? You had one in the town that you're in, and now you got to move? Is that what happened? No, I'm just kidding. You're like, wait,
No.
wait, wait. Okay, I'll move. No, I'm teasing. I'm teasing. There's truth to it, though.
No.
Like it's there's all right. So when that came up, how did that first make you feel? Did it make you? Were you kind of put off by it, or were you kind of open to the conversation about it?
Oh no, I was totally open to it, but it kind of made me laugh because I personally, like, from the time I even understood what relationships were as like a young kid or a teenager, yeah, young teenager, like I wanted like just the one person. I would even write essays in English class on soulmates because I thought it was so fascinating that like
Hmm.
there's a soulmate out there for you.
Hmm.
And I like would read books and I'd research it, and like I'd always get like, A's, A pluses on like these essays I'd do because I found it just so interesting. So I kind of developed like a traditional view. And then when I actually got married, and I think it was just because it wasn't the right person, but it vastly changed my viewpoint. And I continued to pursue like traditional relationships post divorce or post marriage, I mean. And like, but I don't know, I just kind of made more sense to me, like, seeing the freedom of being able to just ditch, all the rules, the the things that women do to try and get a relationship, the way that we behave as women. It's like, oh, we're like in our feminine energy, and like it's all this work. Like that's all it really
Yeah.
feels like to me, is just
Yeah.
work. And it's not authentic. It's just a bunch of rules. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no. So eventually I think I just kind of conditioned myself out of like the societal role of a woman, and have just kind of just started living it for myself. So it looks like probably polyamory because I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I just like, having my relationships with whoever, whenever. And
Yeah.
that's just how it goes. And I end up like well, however many there are, like, there's like, like I've been seeing them for like several years. So I'm
Right.
like, it's like working for me. Like I
Yeah.
like it. So
Yeah, there's something about that though. Like, you know, if something gets a little off on with one person, or they're like, I've always thought, hey, you have this one person you have deep conversations with. You have this person that you just go out and have fun with. You have this person that, you have to, I don't know, let's say corporate functions with or whatever. And hopefully all of them you're having phenomenal sex with or whatever, because
well,
that
that's a
dichotomy's in there.
prerequisite.
Yeah, I mean,
It's the
platonic
only way they stick
relationships,
around.
yeah, platonic relationships are platonic, but if you get more than that, then that's even better. But yeah, I guess even then, and how do you choose one, right?
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that question.
Mm,
I don't think there even needs to be an answer, because it's just an open-ended thing where it's just go explore that
yeah,
until something, I don't know,
yeah,
something else comes up. Or
and I like mine's like I have, so mine are mostly platonic, to be honest. So I don't know like who doesn't enjoy some fun, that's for sure. But I don't know, like it like I don't have FOMO. Like I feel like I've done all the FOMO. So if there's some things that definitely still interest me, but it's so hard to think of, like, I don't know if you and I talked about this last time or not, but can you imagine coming home to the same person all the time?
well, I have yet to like meet that person. I think that's just it. I haven't met that person.
Mm. Sometimes I can
So
and sometimes I can't, I guess I should say. I
yeah.
shouldn't say I can't. There's times when I truly desire it and crave it, and there's other times when I'm like, all I can put up with are the cats right now.
Yeah. 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 I couldn't agree more. It's really just like you just kind of go in and out just based on how you're feeling about relationships or what's going on or whatever. There's days where I'm just like, oh my God, like, if there's a certain type that I can imagine in my mind, I'm like, okay, that would be cool. But from what I see now, I'm like, no, absolutely
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
Like there's this one guy that I've been seeing for like a year and a half, and he is very, every now and again he'll like bring up being in a relationship together exclusively, and I'm like, no. Like, what are you doing? No.
Like, no, like,
No,
no,
no, no.
no, it's
No,
not what we're doing here. We're
no.
going for pizza and things,
Yeah.
right?
Like,
Um,
no.
I guess I should have properly introduced you when you came on, other than just, the most amazing woman in my life being my sister, is
Yes.
you are one of the chapters in the book that's out. That's funny.
Oh my God. Well,
Yeah.
I will get my hands on that and read it very
Yeah.
soon.
You
So I
are,
get past the
you
smooth.
are like there's 6 stories in it. I guess there's 2 books out, but the one with the stories in it, you're one of the 6 stories. So, and it really goes
Oh,
more into a little bit into your stories, but more about your philosophies. So, it was pretty cool.
oh, that's
Yeah, right.
cool. I
So,
feel so honored to be in your book.
come on now. You were like, when I thought about putting in the stories, and like I'm definitely throwing my sister in there. That's for sure. Because one, the
Most colorful
perspective.
character.
Oh, she is quite the character. That's for sure. Let me tell you about her and her princess dress and her crooked tiara, cussing out her other sister for VHS didn't work of Princess Diaries. Uh,
Yeah, that'll get Dolly on the show.
yeah, oh no.
Start bringing up those stories.
Yeah.
She'll get on here real fast to defend herself.
She has PTSD from WWE moves, I think. She wants no part of her brother.
I forgot to send that to you guys because I saw that probably a week before you sent it
really?
in our group chat. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad you sent that because I saw it and I got distracted and forgot to go back and resend it or whatever. But
totally made me laugh. I'm
so
like,
true.
Yeah, I did that.
It's true.
And like they really aren't afraid of much being you and Steph. So like take on the world.
It was so funny.
No kidding. I was like, that made me laugh. So like so you're pretty much just like you're saying, you are when you want to go out, you pretty much have something set up with somebody. You haven't met anybody new recently then, huh?
No.
That's cool.
But my country music crush did come back.
Gosh. You read another song about you? Is this where the polyamorous stuff came up since he's kind of back in the picture? You're like,
well, truth be told, like he's probably I don't know. I can't say this for sure, but I feel like the more time that like I spend with him, like this would actually like reveal if this is true or not. But like he is the only one really that I could imagine like how fun it would be to like have life with him.
Sure.
So, there's my thought process has gone down that road when it comes to him. But of course, I'd have to like actually spend time with him, like more to like really know that. But my hunch kind of says so, but there's that.
Hunch and hope. Those are interesting phenomenons.
There's a philosophy for you.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Next chapter, hunch and
hope. Right. No kidding. That'll be in the next book and about 2 episodes down.
Yeah, but it was really funny. It was on it was the middle of Saturday night, so I guess it would be Sunday morning. I guess he had sent me a text and I didn't get it because I was asleep. Well, I wake up like at 6 a.m. because I have like the biggest party to set up that day. So my anxiety like wakes me up and I'm just like, okay, let's get started on the to-do list. Okay. So I roll over, check my phone, and then I see a number that I don't know because I deleted his number. But I recognized the area code and I was like, oh my God, is this him? And so I just start like cautiously replying back. And then I kind of like feel it out to see if I can figure out the mystery. Like, is it him? And the next thing I see my Instagram popping off with like, him liking my story and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, that's him. It's definitely him. I'm just blindly having a conversation with somebody over text message. And then I finally get confirmation that it's him. And I was like, I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad you're not mad at me anymore.
The funny thing about that, though, like there's a lot of things that are funny about that. One is that so you deleted him but didn't block him.
Initially, yeah.
Okay.
Well, unfollowed him.
But I mean, on your phone, on your like for a text message.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. I just deleted his phone number. So,
did you block him for a while and then delete him and unblock him, or so he just stopped texting you and all that, so you didn't have to worry about blocking him then?
Yeah. I think at one point I had reached out to him.
Okay.
Actually, there was 2 times.
Oh, okay. I got you. I gotcha.
after our whole fight went down back in the earlier part of summer.
Okay.
And yeah, we had our fight, and then there was like silence for like 2 months.
I gotcha.
But in all of that, 2-month period, I replied back, and because he blocked me on Instagram.
Oh my goodness.
Because if I had to guess, it was because I unfollowed him. Each time we've like, the main problem was that I felt ignored. Like
Okay.
in our, we'd have like a conversation, we'd be texting, and then it out of nowhere, like it would just kind of stop. So to me, I just was like, thinking, I guess he's like not that interested or whatever. So I definitely was. So for me to kind of reconcile in my mind that, forget about this, let's just move on. Like I'll just unfollow him. Of course I adore him, but like, and I love his music, but I, emotionally, I'm like, I think if he's just off my timeline, my news feed on Instagram,
Right.
it'll help me move on.
Right.
So that was like my whole intention behind like unfollowing him. But the thing is, we kind of got in this cycle like 4 or 5 times. So it was like a constant of like unfollowing, following, refollowing, blah, blah, blah. Well, I think he kind of like hit his limit, because when he realized like after our conversation, like that I wasn't following him, he blocked me.
Oh,
And
wow.
because I went to go follow him again, because I'm like, okay, I guess we're fine or whatever. But yeah, so he, at that point, I realized I had been blocked from his Instagram. I was like, oh my God.
Wow. Oh,
And he had
wow.
never done that. That was the first time he had ever done that.
Wow. Damn, girl.
So yeah, I was like, oh no. It was like so sad. But anyway, so I kind of like let it cool off for a little while. I think like for, a couple days or something. And my sense of humor was to, reach out over text and to be sassy. And I was just like, I'm like, are you about done being dramatic? It was just like, he replied back lightning speed, like instantaneous. And he was like, what? And he was like laughing. He was like, what are you talking about? With what? I'm like, with you blocking me, you dumbass. Like, what are you doing? I mean, it was funny for the first couple days, but I'm like, you about done?
They don't know what to do with you, girl. They don't know what to do with you. Like they're not used to being coming out like that. Right?
I'm like calling him a princess.
Yeah. That I'm sure he adored. I'm sure he's like, yeah, okay, all right, all right.
I'm like, all right, cupcake, you about done being dramatic? And add me back on Instagram.
See, that's right to your day like a dude, though. Like,
I don't know where this attitude comes from, but it's here. I love it.
oh, I have a pretty good idea where it comes from. Like
oh my God.
There's a certain amount of narcissism. No, I'm kidding.
Why not? Let's throw it into the back.
But I mean, but right. I mean, like
narcissism.
Because it's self-confidence in yourself. Like you have self-assuredness. Like I'm gonna throw this out there. Like that's not a move somebody who at that moment is suffering from self-esteem issues. So, you have a good self-assuredness to them, which is narcissism. But in a good way, not the way people like to use it. It doesn't win anything.
I probably could get into vulnerability a little bit more than I do, but because you and I had talked on the beach when you were out here about that.
Sure.
And, because I feel really comfortable in my ability to just, fire off these like one-liners.
Sure.
Like they do get a lot of laughs and they're like, humorous. And I don't actually mean, my intent is not to be demeaning. It's really just to spark a conversation about it.
Right.
Like in a way that's like not needy. Like, oh, it's like, no, bitch, like pay attention to me for a minute. Let's have a conversation. That's all. then we
There's
can
no
move on. We
hostility
can move
there though
forward.
either. There's no hostility. No, I mean that. Like there's not. There's just like, hey, I'm here. All right. Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah,
Now it's my turn. Yeah.
yeah,
And if you don't
it's
like
fine.
it, like you're blocked and take care of yourself.
Yeah, like if you feel better moving on, fine. That's fine
Right.
too. Like, let just a conversation's fine. But
Right.
he chose not to respond. I saw him typing out, something, and then he never responded.
You saw the
So,
bubbles, but you didn't see it come through.
yeah, he didn't say anything other than the laughter and the ask me what I meant. Like, what was he dramatic about? But yeah. So anyway, just kind of left it as that,
All
and
right.
and then and then on Sunday,
Yeah.
he came back and he unblocked me, and here we are.
Wow. All right. And let the games begin. Like it's not the Hunger Games, it's the thirsty games.
Well, he was very sweet because he asked how I was doing, and I like updated him that I was moving and all the things, and he was very, very sweetly said how proud he is of me
That's
for
cool.
all my hustle and hard work and all that stuff. And
That's legit.
that was, it was very sweet. I was like, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's legit. That's a real thing. Like the amount of hustle and hard work you do put in does get a little bit, I think, probably buried under the personality you have behind it.
No.
Yeah, for real. Like that's good to hear. Well, that's cool. That's cool. Speaking of which, though, how big was that party that you were setting up for that day?
Well, she expected 80 people.
Wow.
And so essentially I rented out my entire inventory and ordered extra. So
Okay.
it was a lot. It was a lot of hard work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it literally was. But she tipped real well. She paid well. Like it was all
She,
worth it. It
you
was
got all
just
your
it
chairs
was
back?
oh yeah. Got my chairs back.
Okay.
Got
Good.
everything back.
Okay.
She
All
even
right.
left dessert for me and my assistant who was helping me for that party. So I was like, oh,
That's
thanks.
cool.
That's sweet.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, no, it was great. It was just, they're just a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, good. Look, I needed to catch up and I need to get that narcissist stuff off my chest and talk through it with somebody. So I
Well, do you
appreciate you
feel
taking
better
the time.
now?
I do. Like I got to get your opinion on it too. Like I'm not like the one thing I know for sure is I am not right all the time. I'm not right, period. But sometimes my opinions aren't right. So I need to throw that out there. Like I feel like it's a crutch that gets in the way of people trying to figure things out. And I think that's just one of the things. It's like when we talk to our friends about the person we're seeing or somebody that we're with or something that's going on, a lot of people are really quick to just say they're a narcissist or just say bad things about them, as opposed to, you know, dating's not easy. And conversations, like vulnerability is tough. Like all that's just the things that we're saying. And it's just really easy to classify it under narcissism or whatever you want to classify it under. And then you go back out and you got to start it all over again, which is not easy too.
Well, tell that person, whoever called you a narcissist, to go F
Oh,
themselves.
yeah. No. I wasn't called it. I wasn't called it. I mean, and if I was called it, I'm like, yes, I mean, I am, but maybe not maybe our definitions
Like,
are
I
a
do
little bit
stare at
different.
myself in the mirror a lot.
Oh, shoot. There wasn't a mirror I didn't want to stop by back when I was younger. That's for sure. A little bit of age has crept in, and I definitely speed by them a little bit quicker than I used to. It was a slow roll by mirrors back in the day. It was
Well,
like,
thank God, because Steph and I would just watch you stare at yourself in the mirror
oh
and
yeah,
we're like,
oh yeah,
okay, he's gone.
yeah. Love me some me.
He's
Yeah,
loving that. He's
yeah,
loving
yeah.
that reflection. God
Look,
love him.
in the 20s, humility was not in vogue for me. Boy, the best thing I ever did in my life was put my ego down. That saved so many relationships for me and opened up so many things for me too.
Like, was it euthanized or? Humbled
Yeah,
or
no, I think
restructured?
it got to a point to where I guess I just didn't feel like I was okay not having to prove anything to anybody. Like I didn't need to win at everything, or um I was more interested in seeing other people do well than have to beat other people. And I still didn't, I still had the self-confidence, but I didn't have the competitive ego. It was the ego I have now is hopefully just to help other people. And once I put that down, whoo, I'm so much more calmer, and my relationships in my life are so much better.
That's what matters at the end of the
Right?
day.
Yeah. Nick.
All that matters.
Like, if we can be good to each other, that's the main thing. Thank you for being along for the ride on the Swipe Wrong podcast. The show is produced by Jay Pelham. You want to reach out to us? We want to hear your story. 317-426-6616. Make sure to text, leave a voicemail. We'll get back to you. Shoot us an email at swipewrongpod@gmail.com. We are on Facebook, Insta, Twitter, YouTube. We are definitely out there. I am the host of the show. My name is Koss. And please make sure to take a listen to us next week because the saga, it continues.